Qué lejos estoy del suelo donde he nacido. Inmensa nostalgia invade mi pensamiento. Y al verme tan solo y triste cual hoja al viento, quisiera llorar, quisiera morir de sentimiento. Oh tierra del sol, suspiro por verte. Ahora que lejos me encuentro sin luz ni calor. Y al verme tan solo y triste cual hoja al viento, quisiera llorar, quisiera morir de sentimiento.
The reason why we've come to Cholula today is because this is probably the most obvious example of a landscape modification in the Mesoamerican world, an actual man-made mountain. This hill, or what appears to be a hill, is in fact the largest pyramid in the world, and that is not an exaggeration. It has a total estimated volume of over 4.45 million cubic meters, which is larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza, which is only about 2.5 million cubic meters. What's interesting about this is that it does look like a natural hill, and in Nahuatl, the Aztec language, this place is known as Tlachihualtepetl, which basically means man-made mountain or made by hand mountain. By the time of the Spanish conquest, it was completely overgrown and looked just like a hill, and a church was put on top of it in the 16th century. The city of Cholula is about 2,500 years old, and much like Mexico City or Tenochtitlan, it was originally built on a dry lake bed, the lake sediments making for very fertile agricultural lands. Additionally, we're fairly close to the volcano of Popocatépetl, whose eruptions would have provided extra minerals for the soil here and increased that fertility. This allowed the city to grow. In 1931, an architect named Ignacio Marquina began tunneling through the Pyramid of Cholula in order to try to understand how it was constructed. At this point, there are more than 8 kilometers of tunnels going through the pyramid. What all this tunneling has revealed is that each ethnic group took over Cholula, the pyramid was added to and augmented, and the temple precinct grew. And this tunneling has revealed that there are, in fact, 6 layers of construction to this massive pyramid. Around 800 AD, changes to the Great Temple or the Great Pyramid of Cholula stopped. And this may have been because of another eruption of Popocatépetl causing the Cholulans to have to move, or possibly a flood associated with the lake bed. In the 12th century, the Toltecs invaded, and again the Mexica or Aztecs invaded prior to the Spanish invasion of 1519. So people have come to this landscape and remade it over and over again over the course of the last 2,500 years. This is Tehuacan Viejo, or Old Tehuacan, known as Inician in the local Popolocan dialect. It's hard to imagine a city in a desert like this, but it required extensive landscape modifications to get this way. This city was constructed over the course of 1,000 years and required extensive irrigation systems in order to get to be the size that it is today. What's interesting about this place is this is the center of origin of agriculture for the entirety of Mesoamerica. Some of the oldest evidence for maize agriculture going back 7,000 years exists here. About 5,000 years ago, beans were domesticated. About 3,000 years ago, squash. So this has been an agricultural area for a long time, in spite of the arid environment. At the time of the Spanish conquest, the indigenous population was moved from this hillside location and down into the valley below, where the modern city of Tehuacan exists today. Agriculture continues much as it did before, requiring irrigation down in the fertile floodplain, growing very similar crops to what was grown in the past. Originally established in 500 BC, Monte Alban represents effectively the first urban landscape in North America or Mesoamerica. Unlike Cholula, and similar to what we saw in Tehuacan, Monte Alban is situated high above the valley where the agricultural fields would have been located. The landscape modifications that occurred here are somewhat obvious. Up here on the mountaintops high above the city of Oaxaca, we have leveled hilltops and terraces built so that houses could be constructed on level ground, in addition to the massive plazas and ball courts that were constructed here, as well as the large temples. Down below, it was agriculture that made Monte Alban what it is today. People cultivated the valleys below where water was plentiful, and additionally relied on plants and animals that might be regarded as somewhat unusual food sources today, such as grasshoppers and maguey worms, which grow in the agave plants, which were likewise cultivated and domesticated here. Just because a civilization does not appear to be complex does not mean that it isn't, or that the relationships between people, the landscape, and the animals and plants around them aren't incredibly complicated. Although places like Cholula, Tehuacan, and Monte Alban might seem radically different from coastal California, the same patterns of New World civilization obtain. People gradually intensified their relationships with the plants and animals around them. They modified the landscapes and got those plants and animals to produce more food for them and allow them to support larger and larger populations.
Oh tierra del sol, suspiro por verte. Ahora que lejos me encuentro sin luz ni calor. Y al verme tan solo y triste cual hoja al viento, quisiera se